Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to yet another episode. I know it's been a while, but summer has been incredibly busy, and I trust it's been the same with you, spending time with family, getting outdoors, enjoying all the good things. As always, I have fantastic guests, and today is definitely no exception. I am joined by Linda Stone, who is a school board trustee and has a very interesting story. And I just wanted to have a conversation with her and see what's happening. Linda, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, David. How have you been?
It's been a great summer. I've been incredibly busy, lots of things to do during the summer, and waste no time just hanging out with the kids, getting out, enjoying the weather. What about yourself?
Fantastic. Yeah, I thought it was an amazing summer. Yeah, had a few hot days and stuff, but I've been up to cottages and yeah, it's been really enjoyable.
Amazing. Really happy to hear that. So, Linda, I know a while ago, it hasn't actually been that long. You can maybe remind me of the dates, but I wanted to hear your story a little bit. You've been going through some stuff at the school and receiving the treatment from them, let's just put it that way. So I know there's a lot of concerns about silencing of parents and silencing of trustees alike who are representing parents, but, you know, going just against the narrative. I just wanted to kind of learn a little bit more what happened and let the listeners know what you've been experiencing.
Great. Thanks, David. Thanks for letting me sort of tell my story here. It was a couple of years ago when our school board introduced a human rights policy, a new policy, and trustees were to discuss it and debate it and vote on it. And during that time, excuse me, at the meetings, there were definitely some red flags for me as I read through the policy, and so I mentioned some of those things at the meetings. And for example, white supremacy, the term white supremacy, I wanted it removed from the policy. I could foresee down the road that this was going to be a problem. I think it's a derogatory term, and I wanted that removed. I talked about the term cisnormativity. I also talked about what happened to Carolyn Brajowski, because the day that we had one of the meetings, I had just read about what happened to her at the Waterloo Durham District School Board, where she was basically shut down for bringing forward the very sexualized and bordering on pornographic books that are in the schools. And she wanted to bring that to the attention of the board, and she was basically told, we think that you're going against the human rights policy. Well, that was huge for me to hear that as we were just working on our human rights policy. So I also talked about the fact that parents were not going to be told if their child went to a teacher and said, I think I'm a girl instead of a boy, or a boy instead of a girl. I'm transgender, but I don't want you to tell my parents. I thought this was a massive mistake. I understand protecting children who might have trouble at home if they come out as a gay or lesbian or trans. I understand that, but I know that teachers also have a background with a lot of parents, and they can tell. They know which parents are going to be possibly abusive towards this child because of this, or there would be trouble at home. However, what I see sort of is painting, starting at the point where all parents are going to be like that. So I just thought this was a problem. I think I also asked that perhaps a letter could go out to parents so that they would know that if their child was transitioning at school, and asked for their parents not to be told, that that's what could happen. But they didn't send a letter out. So anyway, those were the issues that I was discussing. And sure enough, David, like, what are we all talking about now? And this was a couple of years ago. And what did I get for my efforts of coming out and talking about these things? As a trustee, which is what we're supposed to be doing, discussing the human rights policy, along with some of my Twitter, along with some of my tweets that people didn't agree with, which my tweets are always about detransitioners. They're about the books. They're about bathrooms, change rooms for kids, things like that. So anyway, for my efforts, I got 4 integrity commissioner complaints, 3 from trustees, 1 from the public. So the integrity commissioner agreed that I shouldn't be saying those things. I also got complaints from affinity groups. I got complaints from the from union leaders. I got complaints from my own board. So this was a shock to me because I thought I was doing my job as a trustee, bringing these ideas and what I saw as problem areas forward. So anyway, what happened was that the trustees barred me, decided that yes, the integrity commissioner was correct, that I was wrong, and that I should be barred from meetings, committee meetings. I could go to board meetings, but not committee meetings, and that was for 10 months. People were appalled. They couldn't believe that they would do that for 10 months. I think the longest that somebody has been barred from meetings has been 3 months. I think that was maybe Dave Ramsey, or sorry,
That's
Mike Ramsey
yeah.
from Waterloo, right?
That's
So
a
I got
really long time to
10
not
months,
represent parents. Yeah.
very long. Parents were very upset because I came in first in Oshawa and the parents voted for me. They wanted a voice at the board. I'm giving them a voice at the board. And anyway, this was before that election where I came in first. However, so David, this has not stopped. So I have had, since then, I had 13 more complaints to the IC. These were all one trustee and the rest were from the public. So they went directly to the IC. They all shared screenshots of my Twitter account and made complaints. So then when that came through from the IC, I've been barred for another 7 months. So now, David, it still hasn't finished. I still have more complaints. So I think this is not going to stop until they try to shut me down. Well, they're not going to shut me down, David. I will always protect children and I will always speak for parents. That is what I'm there for. So if they cannot take a trustee who may not agree with them, and that's what seems to be happening. If the trustee does not fall in line and agree with everything that the other trustees are talking about, then you're going to get IC complaints. I don't understand it. It's a silencing of somebody's free speech.
100%. I find that very concerning because it's their way of just abusing their power and abusing the human rights code and saying, basically justifying anything under it. Like, we don't like what this person is saying. Therefore, this person should not be participating in our meetings. And the thing is, the most concerning part is that you are a publicly elected official and you are supposed to represent the views of the parents. And I'm sure you have parents talking to you about their concerns regarding how the school boards are proceeding, the kind of policies and procedures that are in the school boards, and even the overall idea that parents are harmful to their children, without any evidence. It's just like, this is guilty before innocence. That's what we're going to assume in this, and just kind of proceeding forward with those ideas. So I think there's a lot of great things that you brought up, especially the stories with the transitioners as well. For some reason, I find that nobody is interested in hearing this. And I've realized just how intertwined all of these different organizations are, including like the integrity commissioners, the ombudsman as well, Ministry of Education, all of these organizations that you think would maybe want to look into it and investigate a little bit more. It all seems to be united in one direction, and it's very interesting to see that.
Because the gender ideology has upset so many parents and has broken up families. We know that. We know people where that's happened. So I think they need to take a much closer look at what is going on. I think that there's organizations like PFLAG and EGAL who are very powerful, and I think they can have a large influence on school boards. And it's not that these people are being nefarious, David, at all. I don't think so. I really do believe that they are trying to protect children who may be gay or may be transgender. But they have to take into consideration the parental rights as well. So as they go forward, I think there's got to be more discussion between the Ministry of Education, MPPs, and school boards and parents. We've got to come to a better understanding and a better agreement so that this is going to make everybody happier.
Yeah. And I just wanted to say, just as a parent looking inside, my opinion of this is a little bit different than yours. The reason why I think it is a little bit nefarious is because there's a lot of public pushback, just a lot of pushback that's building up. And I think that part that's disturbing is how they're handling this. If they had the best interest in mind for children, I think that they would be open to having a conversation with the parents. And what I find is that they're actually doubling down and they're being hostile towards dissident voices like yourself. They're pushing and they're making sure that nobody can say absolutely anything. And the other thing is, if they really had the child's best interest in mind, they would also be taking seriously the detransitioner side of the story as well. But this is why I think that they're just using this LGBTQ, trying to help kids just to push their ideas on people and to just gain control. That's kind of what I'm seeing. I'm not seeing too much like we're helping children, but I'm sure there's people in their organization for sure who are in there thinking that they're helping, but I'm talking high level. This is the direction that we're moving. These are the decisions what we're making. I don't think people at the high level are doing that. And I think even with yours, you're bringing up legitimate concerns and they are concerned about your concerns, and it's kind of interesting. How
Mm-hmm.
have you seen the parents push back at the school board from your point of view?
Yeah, parents have been amazing, fighting for their kids, fighting for their religious rights. They come to the board with delegations. They come to the board with tons of questions, but sometimes are told that those questions are against the human rights policy or the Ontario Human Rights Code, which I do not see how a question can be against the Ontario Human Rights Code. Just because you're speaking about somebody's protective grounds does not mean that's going against the code. You want an explanation. You want some answers. You want everybody protected. Because the people who are the parents who are coming in with they are also have protected rights. They have women have protected rights. There are religious protected rights. So now you have competing human rights. How are the boards going to assess it and come to the best conclusion and the best answers for these parents? Because right now they haven't been. They've been one-sided, and the parents are not giving up. They're getting stronger. They're coming together more. They're going to rally. They're looking for other places to put their kids. They don't want their children in the public education system, which should be a huge concern for school boards and the ministry. I have parents asking me all the time, where else can I send my children? And we know that the religious schools and the private schools have waiting lists. Some of them are a couple of years long. So that's a concern. So that way, and they also come together. They've got different groups as with Durham and with Windsor, and we see with Toronto, the parents have come together to form groups so that they can share ideas and share what they're going to do going forward.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I know a record amount of people who are putting their kids in in private schools, who are homeschooling, who are doing pods. A while ago, that used to be something rare that, once in a while a parent did that. But right now, like you said, the private schools are overflowing and people are just opening up private schools just to service this need. So how do you see this kind of playing out? I'm talking about the backlash of uh, stopping somebody like yourself, stopping parents. How do you think this is going to play out? Is there anything from the Ministry of Education that's coming down the pipes that you think is good?
Well, David, we know we had a statement yesterday, I think it was yesterday, from the Minister Lecce, stating that he would like and is expecting boards, teachers to make sure that parents are included in their child's decision, or need to be told whether or not the child is going to change their pronouns or want to change their name or transition. So this is an expectation only. I wish it was a stronger statement. For me, I think it needed to be policy or legislated. And we know that the Principals Council came out with their statement saying that basically I don't think they're going to adhere to what the minister said. So that's a problem for the minister. And I'm wondering if that is actually going to cause him to say we're going to have to legislate this if they're not going to follow what his expectations are. So that'll be interesting to see how he reacts to what the Principals Council has said. This is parents have to be told of what is going on with their child at schools. They are told they're included in everything else. So I don't know why this is such a major issue, other than the fact that maybe some parents would not appreciate their children transitioning. And don't forget, David, these transitions at school, the social transitioning a child at school is not a benign act. This then concretizes the mind of the child, thinking, everybody's agreeing with this. I guess I really am transgender. I guess I really am the opposite sex. Instead of speaking with the child and maybe getting the child some counseling and saying, why do you think this? Are you sure that you're transgender? These are not things that should be happening at school without the knowledge of at least a counselor or a parent.
Yeah, you're 100% correct about that. And that's the problem with that social transition, is that you just kind of, it gets escalated as time goes on, especially with all the forced affirmation. Everybody, you need to respect this person's pronouns. You need to affirm who they are. And I think positioning parents where it's harmful, if a parent asks the child a question, that, like, so what? So what if parents are having these conversations? It is their kids. It's their future. But I do want to make a shout out to parents over here that I think you need to spend more time with your kids, especially kids who are more vulnerable in this way. I've talked to students at school about what's happening, and they've told me that a lot of these kids have something in common, and that they are terminally online, is how they put it. And that tells me that when they get home, for some reason, whether it's because the parents are busy, or whether it's because they're negligent, or whether it's because they're just not good parents at all, but the kids just go and have screen time, and they don't go outside and interact with people. They don't have these social interactions. And a lot of these kids who are experiencing these symptoms of dysphoria are really not getting much real world interaction. And then they come to school, they think they're still online or something. And online, you can be an avatar, you can be whatever you want to be. So then they come to school and they say, like, oh, look, I'm this and I'm that. And then people are forced to say, yep, that's true, you are that. And you're not doing anybody a service by saying this is true. Yeah, you are that. You're actually, I believe the true harm is just harming the child. Like, you cannot respect somebody and just tell them the truth. That just tells me that there's just a lack of respect. And this politeness thing, I think, is a problem, because at the end of the day, people don't have the courage to just have normal conversations, like literally just a normal conversation. So what if somebody's feelings get hurt? Uh, I mean, it just doesn't have to be anything dramatic all the time, but it doesn't have to be an agreement all the time either.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. It's screen time is a major issue, David. I have said on the parent group, I'll put out little blurbs saying, just my humble opinion, take your children off TikTok. Make sure they are not on that social media site. TikTok has major influencers on there, even around gender dysphoria and transitioning. So children can even be told, don't tell your parents, because they're not going to agree with this. So they're told what to say. And children, especially who are not fitting in at school, they may be autistic, they may have other mental health issues, completely get pulled in by this. And when a child goes to school and is just affirmed, then to me, the adult has left the room. There are no adults left to guide this child and ask them more questions. Would you affirm a child who says, I'm too fat, when they're anorexic? No, you would not. And what I've been told when I ask that question is, well, anorexia is a mental health issue. Transgenderism is not. Well, if you talk to somebody who's transitioned and who is honest, they will tell you, yes, it's a mental health issue because I don't feel that I'm in the right body. That's not a normal state to be in, right? So when you affirm that, and I'm not denying that there are children who have gender dysphoria, 100% they absolutely do, and they suffer greatly. That's a very, very tiny portion of the population. In a school board, if they still had the diagnosis of gender dysphoria, where a child had to be diagnosed, it would be, I'm just guessing, but maybe 2 or 3 children in a whole school board. Now it's exploded because of the affirmation and the social aspect of TikTok and things like that. So I really think the adults need to come back into the room. Children need to be guided. They need to make sure that they get the proper care that they need and that they warrant. And we've got to just change the way this is happening.
Absolutely. And I'm always advocating for just simple solutions. And I believe the simplest, most effective solution, that's actually really fun, is just spending time with the kids. And I think that, in my opinion, obviously, I really do spend a lot of time with the kids. My kids don't go on tablets. We don't have a TV. We don't have any of this. And it's a huge difference on how they behave and how happy they are and how creative they are, instead of just being in front of the screen. They're out, they're playing, they're active, and they don't have any of these problems. And I have 2 girls, and I actually refer to them as girls. Like, I say, like, girls, let's go here, girls, let's go there. And just that simple thing, like, there's nothing in their mind that makes them think otherwise. And I had a recent discussion with them now that they're getting a little bit older. And I said, girls, I got some really good news to tell you. They're like, what is it, Dad? Like, you're not going to grow a beard. And they're like, we know, and it's just so funny. Like, I just play these like little fun games with them, and they know more than what some adults know, and they're willing to be honest about it. And I'm very happy, and I wish all parents were like this. And that's why I do encourage parents to spend time with their kids, because it's a make it or break it now if you don't spend time with your kids in comparing to spending time with them.
David, if you're not influencing, the parent isn't influencing the child and teaching the child their morals, and then somebody else will. And that's
That's
not going
right.
to be somebody that you want to be doing that. So spending time with your children is 100% as a major factor in children upbringing. You have to be with your child, and the screens have to go. I would love to see phones taken out of the classrooms. I think Quebec actually just recently did that. Phones out of the classrooms. The kids don't have the phones for 8 hours a day. That changes their lives. That changes their outlook. That changes their behavior. It changes their grades. We've seen it happen in the States. They pushed back the students, but after a while, they actually liked it because it gave them a rest from the outside world. So I would love to see that happen at our board. And with
That's right.
I just want to say, David, with the transgender issue, my concern is that these children, they end up going on puberty blockers, and they're told that puberty blockers are reversible and nothing, it won't affect their bodies. And if children go on puberty blockers, there's a massive, there's a huge chance that they will go on cross-sex hormones. And we know this is then a lifetime of medication. Who wins in this? A lot of times the pharmaceutical company wins in this, right? Because then you have detransitioners who's now these children's lives are ruined. Chloe Cole, there's lots of them now. They're all coming out and saying, I had breasts removed at the age of 12, 13, 14. People will tell you this isn't happening. It is happening. And David, the thing that I think is interesting, what I see at the board when parents come to talk about these issues, and just talking to you, I find that the parents have more information than people at the board. And so when the parents bring these issues up, I think sometimes people like trustees and teachers and principals and whoever's there are going, I don't really know what you're talking about. I don't think that's right. Because the parents have done the research. They've read the books. They've listened to the podcasts. They've heard the detransitioners. They know exactly what's going on. So sometimes I think decisions are made by people in positions to make the decisions that have less information than the parents. And that is an issue. We've got to make sure that people get the information that they need, where they see that these things are actually ruining children's lives. And that's not to say that some children, it really helps when they transition at an older age. Nothing should be done at least before the age of 16, and I would really say 18. And then they're an adult, then they can make those decisions for themselves. But to be transitioning children at a young age, I think is a major mistake.
That's right. Honestly, I'm going to be even more conservative than that because I've went through life and I'm past the age, but I would say like over 25 is probably when the brain starts to mature. A lot of people don't even know what they want when they're in school, let alone choosing something with lifelong psychological and physical ramifications. Mm-hmm. And I think the longer that, people can keep it out, I think a lot of these problems get solved with time. As I find that right now in my early 30s, I'm finding who I am and I'm very comfortable, and the 30s is actually great. So I don't think people should be making rash decisions at an early age. And yeah, it's very interesting where all of this stuff is going, because the kids need direction and they need somebody to just help them work through these issues. And I find that a healthy conversation, even though people on the school board and the leadership, they say, oh, we didn't know all of this. If a parent comes up with information, I think the correct response is, thanks for bringing it to our attention. Let us look into it. Let's see what the problem is. But I find that the immediate response they put out is like, nah, this is not happening. Nope, we're not doing this. This person's hateful. When I was at the school board with a delegation, I talked about a book that I found. I've accessed. Anybody can access this book online. And it was like hard topics about adults loving children too much and showing the descriptive process and stuff. And I said, why are books like these available to kids in the school? And the responses I got is, like these books are bringing awareness to the abuse, etc. But these are not self-help books. These are novels, and they're for education purposes. And they're not for education purposes, they're for entertainment. And
Mm-hmm.
I find it very concerning that, you know, you sit there, they're clearly disgusted. Even the trustee, one of us said, I was disgusted to the core. But she wasn't disgusted to the core about uh, what I was reading. She was disgusted that I was reading it. And that was the difference, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, and people were walking out of the room as well because it was so disgusting. And this is the thing, like they say it's a children's book, right? And they say, oh, did you read the entire book? Well, it's like watching a movie, right? If there's a hardcore scene in there and it's in a kid's movie, uh, you don't need to watch the entire movie to know that it's not appropriate for a child. It's the same thing with these books. Like, and I find it even more concerning that if you're able to sandwich and hide these graphic scenes within a children's book and then play it off like, oh, well, this is what the book is actually about, is bringing awareness. Well, now I am aware actually of this,
Mm-hmm.
and I am aware that this is abuse. And I think you're abusing the minds of kids through the content you're making available. Um, so it's very interesting that school boards are doubling down on their position, and instead of saying, let's look into it, these concerns sound legitimate. I mean, you've provided the proof. Other people feel the same, but no, it's just dismiss, dismiss. And you're wrong, you're hateful, which is a very interesting approach that I do not think they will be able to hold much longer.
I agree with you, David. I think that I've sent the books to MPPs, the list of books. So hopefully something will be done with that. I think at the very least, they need to have a review of these books and somebody from the ministry coming and reviewing them with them. I think that some parents have actually tried to take them to somebody who's an expert in pornography and say, would you consider this pornography? And so they definitely have to. These are books that have images in them that children should not be seeing, and then I hear that, well, this is so that people feel included. Maybe people from the LGBTQ feel included. They can see themselves in these books. They don't need to see sexual images in order to feel included. That's ridiculous. Heterosexual children, we would not want to see that either. They don't need to see that in order to feel included. Then we're not doing it right at the schools. You need to tell children to be kind, to be inclusive, to be friends with everybody, to accept everybody as they are, and they don't have to be reading books in order to feel like they belong.
That's right. I mean, and there's also a very strong focus on a particular type of books that they're making available. And I think all these books, if I could summarize the new books coming in, would fall under the DEI books, diversity, inclusive, equity books. And that's kind of the overall message that they're pushing through. And the irony of this, when I spoke at the school board, they were saying, well, are you advocating for the banning of these books? I'm thinking to myself, like, didn't you ban like children's classic books? And now I'm bringing up these like crazy content books, and you're saying like this man wants to ban these books, right? You guys are the one that have banned classic children's books, and then turning around and having the brazenness to question parents on whether these books are appropriate for kids, and if kids really need to know from an early age on what their sexuality is, and have strangers inquire about it and have conversations about sexuality and behaviors that pertain to it. Nowhere else, I think you can get away with it. If you approach a kid at a park and you ask him, excuse me, what's your sexuality? It'd be like straight to jail. That's inappropriate. And even saying something like that and saying, well, if you ask a kid, these school boards have been surveying kids and asking about it, but then their backup is, well, you're going to opt out of these surveys. First of all, I don't know what's on the survey. I don't really know what I'm opting in or out as a parent. And then when they are asked, they say, "Oh, you can uh, skip the question," but that doesn't make it any more appropriate. Like, it's none of their business. You should not be asking these questions. You should not be having these conversations. And just because you ask it and you're saying you don't need to answer it, it does not make it appropriate. A stranger at a park approaching a child to talk about that and saying, then, "Just kidding, you don't have to answer," or "LOL, that's so funny," or whatever, is like, why are you even asking these kids these questions in the first place? So I'm very concerned with the direction. And anybody like yourself just talking like simple things is kicked out for months. Months. I've never heard anything like that before.
Well, stay tuned, David. There's probably more to come. But I also want to touch on a couple of years ago on my Twitter account, I knew what was coming with the washrooms and the change rooms. And I had said on my Twitter, tweeted out, there's going to be universal bathrooms, change rooms, etc. And I was just almost vilified and attacked so much. Eventually, I just closed my Twitter account. And sure enough, David, here we are. We've got universal bathrooms, universal change rooms in all new school builds with our board. And parents are so upset with this. And so I think trustees are going to have to take another look at it and say perhaps this is not the way we should be moving. But as soon as you say, if I bring up the fact that girls and boys need their privacy, especially girls, and if it's dangerous for them in a way because you don't know, boys could come in and anything could happen. And I'm not saying that all boys are like this, but what they do is they turn it around and say, well, transgender kids are not harmful. And what I'm trying to say is I'm not talking just about transgender kids. I'm just talking about children in general, boys at 16, 17, coming into the girls' bathrooms and change rooms. I just think we've completely lost it. And so do the parents. They think we've lost it as well. And there needs to be privacy. The Muslim parents, how are the Muslim girls going to go into the bathroom with the boys? Even though there's this, they say, well, we have single stalls and the stalls are floor to ceiling, which I think is even worse. So we need to take back the bathrooms for the
Yeah,
girls and the boys. I don't think the boys appreciate it either. So let's continue with the girls' bathrooms, boys' bathrooms, and have a single stall so that anybody who's transitioning can use the single stall. And I'm sorry if they feel like that's making them feel not included. However, I do think that they need to also understand that there needs to be some give and take, right? So until they're maybe fully transitioned, it's a very difficult situation, David, I have to admit. But I do believe that that's the best solution is the boys' bathroom, the girls' bathroom, and a third bathroom, which is what is going on in most schools now. You have the single stall where a child transitioning can use. And I think that's the best for all involved.
that's right. And I could just speak from the boys' perspective a little bit. In an age where accusations are basically taken as fact, I don't think any boy would even want to put himself in the position of being remotely accused of doing anything. I mean, there's a big thing just in our culture, like men are not approaching women, they're not talking to them. Just by looking at somebody the right way, it's like you're a perv, you're a creep, this and that. It's really hurting both sides at the end. And I've spoken to some high school students as well about this, and the students aren't even going to the washroom anymore. They'll just hold it in the whole day. Obviously, that's not healthy. Nobody wants to deal with it. The girls don't want to deal with it because it's unsafe. The boys don't want to deal with it because they're being accused. The trans kids, they're feeling like they don't belong anywhere. And then if you do offer them a solution, that's, hey, this is just for you. I mean, you can't, there's got to be a point where you just got to take it. And you can't just complain about everything. Like having just the full autonomy to just go wherever you want and nobody can say anything. Absolutely no judgment. The truth is that there needs to be different spaces for different people, like you said. And this is a huge issue.
Right.
And in
And
sports
girls are
too.
pushing back,
Yeah.
David. The girls in some of the Catholic schools they've written letters to the ministry and stuff. They are really pushing back on this. And I've heard the same thing, that they just won't go to the bathroom. I mean, if they are menstruating, you think they want to be in the same bathroom as a boy? It's hard enough. So, yeah, they're holding it, which is not great. So
Yeah.
that needs to change, for sure.
Linda, you just have these common sense things and beliefs. I when I hear how you've been treated, how you're continuing to be treated, I think what you're doing is you're exposing exactly what is happening. And I'm not going to lie, in a way, your situation is extremely bad. But I got to say, I'm very thankful for you and your position and the fact that you're able to stick to it. Because really, the only thing you're doing is just talking like common sense things that I would bet like 90% of the parents are like, yeah, this is true. This is how we grew up, you know? And
Correct.
I'm sure everybody agrees. I've not met a person that said otherwise. And unless they didn't approach me about it in real life, like everybody that I speak to, anybody that recognized me has only said good things and great feedback. I'm sure there are people who think otherwise, obviously, because we're in this situation here, but it's very interesting. A person like yourself making just basic statements on biology and how we should proceed with things is shut out for like a year and a half. It's insane. So I
It
want to
is.
thank you for exposing it.
Yeah, David, this goes back to the silencing of people whose opinion you disagree with. So they don't agree with my opinion. They want to silence me. I'm sure they'd be happy to keep me out for the next couple of years if they can. And if this, look at Jordan Peterson. There's several other people. There's so many other people who are going through the same thing. I maybe was one of the first that they started to go after, and then and Amy Ham and people like that. And it is the silencing of the people who do not stick with the orthodoxy, and it really does become a mindset that they cannot move on. And yet we are speaking. To me, it's common sense. Let's come up with the best solution, and everybody to make everybody reasonably happy. And people have to give and take. You can't have it all your way. That's just the way life is. And so the silencing of people in this country is frightening to me. I think we're going down a very dangerous road, and we need pushback. We need parents to push back, which is what they're doing. You're pushing back with your podcast. We need it all exposed, because children are going to grow up. There's teachers who don't want to say anything. There's principals who are silent. There are trustees who are staying silent. They agree with me. They won't say anything because they're afraid that the same thing's going to happen to them as has happened to me. I keep saying you get used to it, but you don't really. It's been very, very, very difficult. Hard on my family, hard on me, hard on my health. And thank goodness, David, that I have people like you. I have people like Carolyn Brzezinski. I have people who stand by me, and parents, hundreds of parents. That's how I won the last election. They understand. They know what's happening, and they agree with me, and I agree with them, and we're going to move forward together. That's how I feel. And the march is coming up. How is the ministry ever going to ignore September 20th? Million-person march? How are they going to ignore the fact that parents are going to begin to keep their children out of this classroom on a regular basis? They're going to pick the day. Yep, this is the day we're keeping the kids home. And September 22nd, I guess it's Chris, Billboard Chris, and
Josh Alexander.
yes, Josh Alexander in Toronto. Big voices to get the gender ideology out of the classroom because it's harming children. It's harming their minds. It's telling them lies. And so we'll move forward. I'm never going to stop, David, because to me, this is the safety of children. I'm never going to stop that until they come to their senses. And
That's right.
I think we've got the majority with us. We see the harms that this is causing. And even if I'm going against a board policy, my duty as a trustee is the mental health and well-being of these children. And if I believe that they're being harmed, I will speak against it.
That's right. It's hard to
Against
stop. It's hard to stop,
it is.
especially when you know that all the damage that it's causing. And same with me, I wish I could do something else with my time and whatnot, but I find this so important. And even
Yes.
though I have a great relationship with my girls and there's other kids, I feel for them. I see the positions that they're put in, the track that they're being pushed, and I value family and I value parenting because I focus on it so much that it breaks my heart to see kids having the rug pulled right from under them at such an early age.
Yes.
One thing I will say, during the past year and a half, 2 years, parents have really started waking up and speaking publicly about it. And
Yes.
we've come such a long way. Right now, it's just all I'm seeing when I see statements, uh, even from our prime minister saying he's concerned with the rise of X-phobia, right? It's like, you should be concerned because parents had enough of it. And if he's hearing about it and making that tells me that enough people are talking about it that now he's concerned, right? He's trying to spin it around. But yeah, this is not working anymore. This spin strategy, it's over. I see somebody attempting to spin it. It's like, you're done, man. You got nothing else to stand. You got no leg to stand on. I've already heard it. If you think I didn't put up with it from the school board, I put up with it over there with the spin doctors in education. I put up with it with the Human Rights Commission. I put up with it with the Ministry of Education. I put up with it from the federal government. It's like, yeah, you guys all say the same things. I'm immune to it. You can't call me anything anymore. Like,
Oh, David,
my
that's
kids.
exactly how I feel. Like, oh, bring it on. I've heard it all. It's all lies. I know who I am. I know you know who you are. We're confident enough in that. We know we're good people and we're standing up for children and the rights of children and keeping them safe. And you can call me any name you want. It's a lie. And that's all you've got. You don't even come back with anything that's common sense that you can argue with. So you just call me all the usual names and we all just roll our eyes now. Yeah, whatever. Go ahead because that's all you've got. How about something concrete? Tell me something concrete that you're going to do for these children to protect them. And if you're not, then you're complicit.
That's right.
I've had it. David, you're starting to bring the anger out in me. I've had it with this. And so have parents. Open
Yeah.
your eyes to see what's going on here. Boys and girls sports. Come on, especially at the elite level. Girls are going to get harmed. What happened just recently, David, with the weightlifting? The guy
Oh,
comes
yeah.
in, he's 6'2" or whatever. He lifts 440 pounds more than what any woman would be able to lift. And all of a sudden he's a hero or she's a hero. Come on. Are we that blind to think that this is reality?
This is harming women. It's not doing any favors for men because it makes these people look incompetent as well. Like, nobody's getting a pat on the back from the guys that you beat a girl. Let's just put it that way.
That's right.
And, here's the other thing. I did a video on this about this anger. If this doesn't boil your blood, if this doesn't make you want to stand up and participate in your own rescue and do something about it, this is all the kids at school are going through this. And to the person listening and watching it, your kids are going through this at school. your kids are being exposed to this. If this doesn't make you angry, and if this doesn't direct your attention to asking for change, uh, and talking with the school boards and putting pressure on the government to change, I don't know what else will. And a solution that I say, if you're angry, do something about it. Either take your kids out of school, get out and for this million person march that's happening September 20th, go to Toronto September 22nd, and have that protest. Put something at
Right.
your school, go speak at your school. If you're not that angry or whatever, just, don't complain about it. But I do think I invite everybody, and I know this, the people who listen, I think they're very smart people. I always get great comments, great insights.
Good.
And people know, everybody knows. It's a case that the emperor has no clothes in this. And yeah, everybody's seen it, and we're done with it.
Yeah.
And
And
I'm
you know,
very
David, that,
encouraged.
sorry to interrupt you. At our board, you know that the parents were locked out, and those parents are in front of the board protesting at every single meeting. They know the dates of the meetings, and they are out there protesting because they want back in. They want their voices heard, and so they're really doing something.
Yep. And I think the board made it even worse by doing that, because now people are really pissed off. Before it's like, I don't really want to. But now you're just like, just pissing people off who didn't even want to participate, even out of spite. Like, I didn't want to attend the board meeting. Now I do, like, it's my right to
That's
not
right.
go, but it's also my
That's
right to
right.
go. Yeah.
Yes, exactly, exactly. So they demonized all the parents rather than, and they put out a letter. The director put out a letter saying that these parents were hateful and they were awful and all the stuff, And that's what really upset the parents, really upset them when the director came out and said that about them. So they're
Excellent. Good
fighting. They're
for him
fighting
for
back.
putting it out. Yeah, good for him for putting it out. I
Or
have this thing, she, I
yeah.
have this thing, never interrupt an enemy when they're making a mistake. So I think that the director did a great disservice to the school board. I'm embarrassed to hear that this decision was made. But yeah, I'm glad that it happened, and I'm glad that it's waking parents up,
Mhm.
because they're really uh, bringing this process. They're just hurrying the inevitable, which is that parents need to have control of their own kids. So, Linda, before we end, I just wanted to know if there's anything else that you wanted to say. Is there something that we didn't touch upon?
Well, I mean, David, I could go on forever about all kinds of issues, but just let me say thank you to the parents who are fighting for their children and keep going. And you are being heard. Changes will come; they have to come, and keep going. And I would say, if you call your MPPs and ask them to get involved, that may help as well. Keep calling, arrange an appointment to see them, speak to them. The more parents who do that, the more they'll realize they've got to do something about this issue. It also comes down to votes, David. I've also heard people say, "Who are we going to vote for next time?" Because we're not going to vote for the Conservatives if this continues. I'm not going to vote for the Liberal. I don't know who we're going to vote for, but they're starting to already think about that. So, and just I just want to make one comment about people who think this isn't happening. I had a young mom come to me the other day and say, "Can you tell me where else I can put my child?" Child is in JK. She said he came home and said, "Mommy, I can be a girl if I want to." This just totally devastated her. So this is happening, and parents are rallying, and I just want to keep encouraging them. They will start to make an impact, and they already have.
That's right. Linda, I just wanted to thank you so much for everything that you do. Honestly, you are on the front lines of this. I know you're taking a lot of heat, but it's also very commendable to how you are able to take all of this on. I'm sure the parents are incredibly appreciative of you, and just people like yourselves who are willing to stick their neck out for the kids and for speaking the truth. Um, and you are an encouragement to other people that it's okay to do it. I mean, if enough people do it, it can't silence everybody. So I just really wanted to say thank you, and thank you for coming on the podcast as well and sharing your story with me.
Thank you so much, David. And thanks for being a great dad, because your girls are lucky to have you. So you are a great example to how parents should be treating their kids and be with their kids and spend time with their kids. Thank you for everything that you do.
You're very welcome. And ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you enjoy this episode. I got a few more amazing episodes. Actually, I'm going to say all the podcast episodes that I've had are amazing. And if you would like to hear more, please feel free to check it out. I'm also on Rumble, Spotify, YouTube, Twitter. I mean, you can find me anywhere. And I'm very excited that you made it through this episode. And I'm looking forward to the next one. Take care.